The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Listen to me. It's Monday, April 13th, 2026, and the globalist vampires are shivering in their silk-lined coffins today because the light of common sense is burning through the fog. I can practically smell the sulfur coming off the teleprompters in D.C. today, and honestly, it's a beautiful smell because it means we're winning the war for the documents.
I mean, really, Ray, are we going straight to the sulfur today? It's a busy show today, everyone. A very important lineup of stories that I think really get to the heart of, well, the collapse and the rebirth of everything we care about.
It's a tactical rebirth, Will.
If you say so. Yesterday, we were breaking down that Navy spending disaster, $800 million for the USS Boise to just sit in the mud, and the IRS giving people 30 days to hand over their banking data or lose their checks. It feels like the ruling class is they're checking the boxes on a checklist of how to alienate every single productive citizen in this country.
They don't want productive citizens, Will. They want bioservants who don't ask questions about the interdimensional transition. I am Ray the Hammer Miller, and I have the white paper stacked so high on my desk I can't see the exit door. And across the digital divide is the populist prince himself, the man who thinks a flannel shirt can stop a pincer movement, Will Sterling.
It's a very durable flannel, Ray. I'm broadcasting from the barn in Maine today, and honestly, I'm looking at these birth rate numbers from the CDC, and I'm asking myself, what is going on here?
It's the demographic winner. It's exactly what I predicted back in January.
Literally. I mean, the CDC's National Center for Health and Statistics just dropped the 2025 preliminary report, and get this, the U.S. fertility rate has hit an all-time low, 53.1 births per 1,000 women. That is a historic floor. We're at 1.6 children per woman. You need 2.1 just to keep the lights on in a civilization. And, I mean, think about it. Focus on the Family and the CBO are now saying deaths might exceed births by 2030. That's 10 years sooner than they said 2 years ago.
Because they're poisoning the well, Will. They're using housing inflation as a chemical-free contraceptive. If a young man can't afford a plot of land to defend, he won't bring life into this world. It's a psychological operation to make the American male feel like a redundant piece of hardware in a software world.
Is it that, or is it just the ruling class making life so expensive that a family is now a luxury good? Lyman Stone over at the Institute for Family Studies is pointing at housing and, well, this lifestyle expectation inflation. Young people think they need the granite countertops before they can have the baby, and the state is happy to let them wait until they're 40 and infertile.
But the light is breaking through, Will. Look at the church attendance.
That's the spiritual spring part of the data. Gen Z is actually leading the charge back to the pews. They're realizing that the digital void has nothing for them, and honestly, it's the most common sense thing I've seen in years. If the material world is rigged, you go back to the eternal.
They want the truth. They're tired of the pot-bellied vampires telling them that gender is a social construct while their own biology is screaming for a purpose. These kids are seeing the pincer movement, and they're looking for a bunker, and that bunker is the nuclear family and the Word of God.
It's a total rejection of the holistic nonsense we saw with the IBM settlement yesterday. People want real things, real families, real labor. Speaking of real things, Javier Milei is proving that the chainsaw is mightier than the printing press.
The Argentina miracle.
I mean, think about it. He took office with 200% inflation, and according to the Buenos Aires Herald, he's got it down to manageable levels. Monthly inflation hit 1.5% in Argentina?
Because he stopped the stealing, Will.
Literally, he cut the subsidies, he made the central bank actually act like an adult, and he's running a monthly fiscal surplus. When was the last time we saw a surplus in the West, Ray?
We haven't, because the globalists view a surplus as unspent theft. Milei is showing that if you stop the cardiac arrest of socialist spending, the body of the economy starts to breathe again. And Trump knows it. That's why we saw that $20 billion currency swap. We're building a new financial axis wheel.
It's a strategic realignment. But then you look at New York, and they're expanding public pensions. I mean, really, at the same time Argentina is showing us how to survive, the New York ruling class is digging the hole deeper for the taxpayers?
They want the collapse, Will. They want the subsidy cliff to hit so they can demand a federal bailout that comes with a social credit score attached. They're watching Milei like a hawk because he's a threat to the narrative that you need the state to survive.
It's so transparent, it's almost funny. But what's not funny, and what I'm really confused about, is this blow-up between the president and the Vatican. What is going on here?
Trump is calling out the wolves in sheep's clothing, Will.
I don't know, Ray. I mean, back in April, I was saying this pope was a traditionalist dream. Leo XIV is the first American pope. I thought he was going to bring some sanity, but then he goes on the papal plane this morning and says he has no fear of Trump, and he's criticizing the Iran policy?
Because he's been got, Will. The documents don't lie.
Wait, Ray, you're saying the pope is compromised? Really?
Listen to me. Trump called him weak for a reason. Pope Leo is out there echoing the radical left on mass deportations. He's talking about Iran having a right to energy while they're mining the Strait of Hormuz. Trump even posted that AI image of himself as a Jesus figure because he's saying, I'm the one actually protecting the Christian West while you're hosting 60-minute segments with cardinals who hate my guts.
I have to push back here. I mean, I really do. The Pope is the head of a billion people, and Trump is calling him terrible for foreign policy? That's a bridge too far, even for a populist. The president should be building an alliance with the Holy See, not calling the pontiff weak on Truth Social.
An alliance with a surrender monkey? Fast. If the Pope is out there telling us to let the globalists flood the borders and let the Iranians build the bomb, he's not an ally, Will. He's an obstacle. Trump is using common sense. He's saying the papacy shouldn't be a political wing of the globalist elite.
But Ray, you're missing the frame. The ruling class wants this fight. They want the religious right to split between the Trump Christians and the Vatican Christians. It's a pincer movement to weaken the coalition before the midterms. Why is the president falling for it?
He's not falling for it. He's exposing it. Breathe. He's saying, I don't care who you are. If you're against the survival of the American people, you're on the wrong side of history. It's the same thing Bill Maher is saying, for heaven's sakes.
Now there's a sentence I never thought I'd hear. Bill Maher and Donald Trump on the same side of a Western Civ argument. Maher actually defended J.D. Vance's trip to Hungary. He said Western values are objectively better.
Because Mayor doesn't want to live in a world where he gets thrown off a roof for a joke. He's realizing the enlightenment he loves only exists because of the Christian values he used to mock. It's a technical retreat to reality.
It's the Toolbelt Generation logic. People are tired of the abstractions. 60% of Gen Zers are going into the trades. Because honestly, you can't argue with a wrench. You can't deconstruct a leaking pipe. AI has taken the white-collar jobs. The ruling class credentialing system is failing. And these kids are just opting out.
It's the most tactical move they can make. Get a trade, get a gun, get a plot of land. These kids are going to be the ones who rebuild the ruins after the globalist cybercruds crash the grid. They're looking at Hungary and seeing that even if Orban loses an election, the spirit of the people is still there.
Well, Orban did lose. A landslide for Peter Magyar, 79% turnout. I mean, that's a youthquake if I've ever seen one. 65% of the under-30s voted against him.
It was a Soros-funded operation, Will.
You think everything is a Soros operation, Ray?
Because it usually is. They targeted Hungary because Orban was the one guy saying no to the EU's demographic suicide pact. They had to make an example of him. But listen to me. The people are waking up to the fact that their institutions, the ones that are supposed to keep them safe, are actually rotten from the inside.
That brings us to the main story today, and honestly, this is the one that should keep you up at night. What is going on with our public safety?
It's a controlled collapse.
Before we get back to the analysis, let's deal with a hard reality. Real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, The Neural Daily,
exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. If you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. And don't limit yourself just to the politics. Get the full strategic picture by subscribing to the Neural Daily and the rest of the network. Support the builder, and you support the mission.
Support the mission. I mean, it's the only mission left, Ray. Because if you look at the Esparto conspiracy out of California, it's a terrifying example of how the ruling class handles your safety. They don't handle it. They facilitate the disaster.
Literally, we're talking about an illegal fireworks depot that was known to officials for a decade. A decade! And they did nothing until it exploded and destroyed a neighborhood. This isn't incompetence, Ray. It's an abandonment of the basic duty of the state.
Because they were probably getting a kickback from the depot, or they were too busy monitoring the social media of extremists who think there are only two genders to worry about a couple of tons of high explosives in a residential area. It's the same thing we saw with the Pentagon audit failure yesterday. They lose the money, they lose the oversight, and you lose your house.
And then you compare that to the citizen in Austin, Texas this weekend. Friday night at the Cabana Club, a violent assault breaks out in the parking lot. And, I mean, think about it. If that guy waits for the police, what happens?
He ends up in a body bag.
Exactly. He drew his own firearm. He defended his life. He stopped the threat. And then you have Derek Perry in Michigan, a retired Marine. He stops a mass stabbing at a Walmart just by showing his weapon. He didn't even have to pull the trigger.
That is the Second Amendment in action. That is common sense. The ruling class wants you to think that a good guy with a gun is a myth. But the NRA is reporting up to 3 million defensive gun uses a year. They don't report the Michigan case on the evening news because nobody died. They hate that. They want a high body count so they can justify disarming the survivors.
It's the contrast, Ray. You have the state failing for 10 years to stop a known explosive threat, and you have a Marine stopping a mass stabbing in 10 seconds. Why would anyone trust the institution over the individual at this point?
Only the sheep trust the institution. Even the sheep are starting to grow horns. The documents I have right here prove that the federal government is trying to classify armed self-defense as a form of vigilantism to discourage people from being their own first responders. They want a monopoly on violence so they can choose who gets protected and who gets selected for termination.
It's the duty to retreat laws. They want to make it legally more dangerous for you to defend yourself than for you to let the criminal kill you. I mean, really? Is that the society we want? Where the ruling class has armed guards but tells you that a fishing lure and a prayer are enough for your family?
They hate you, Will. They want you to be a victim because victims are easy to manage. A man who can stop a mass stabbing with a sidearm is a man who might stop a globalist with a mandate. That's why they're terrified. That's why they're trying to bury the Esparto story, because it proves the state is not only useless, it's actively dangerous.
It's the ultimate common sense realization. The more you rely on yourself, whether it's for your energy, your labor, or your safety, the more of a threat you are to the people in D.C.
And that's why I take my Super Male Vitality bone broth every single morning.
There it is.
Listen to me. You can't fight a biblical war on an empty stomach. These stories, the birth rates, the Argentina miracle, the citizen defenders, it's all part of the same puzzle. The globalists are trying to hollow us out, but we are filling the gap with iron and will. The system is failing, but the people are rising.
It's a fascinating time to be alive, Ray. A bit terrifying. We're seeing the old world break. The old media, the old Vatican, the old education system, and the Toolbelt Generation is waiting in the wings with a wrench and a holster.
It's a beautiful thing, Will. I can see it. I can see the documents being shredded by the truth. Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them tell you that the Pope is your general, or that the CDC is your doctor. You are the architect of your own survival.
I think that's our rallying cry for the day. Take care of your family, trust your gut, and, for heaven's sakes, stay away from illegal fireworks depots.
And get the bone broth. It's over for the vampires. The hammer is down.
Good night, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow to see what else the ruling class has broken.
They've broken everything but us. Stay tactical. Stay ready. I have the documents. We are winning.
Seriously, Ray, what is